because I have
Okay, yeah, let's talk about grip.
I hate switch grip.
Which is what? Please let people know.
So if this is the barbell, it would be me grabbing an opposite thing.
Please explain why you hate it.
Okay. I've been waiting for this moment.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Digging Deep. Today I am here with Coach Aaron and we are talking deadlifts 101. So I remember talking to you about basic fundamentals.
Yeah.
Right? I believe that no matter, at least the big 5, I know they were like big 3, now they're big 5s apparently.
Yep.
Meaning squats, bench, deadlifts, thrust, and press.
Yep.
So I believe there has to be some basic fundamentals to jump to those big 5s.
Yep. 100%.
Now, speaking of deadlifts, what would you say the basic fundamentals of deadlifts are?
So one of the first things I look for is a very, very simple concept that people don't seem to understand, which is that you can actually activate all those spinal erector muscles and get down into a position that's advantageous for deadlifting. So as an example, being able to lock that back in place, like we actually see in this drawing right here that I have, like being able to get this angle and start hinging over and squatting down with that. If you have the flexibility and the mobility to do that, you're probably okay to start at least picking up a barbell.
Okay.
Now, once we start with that barbell, that's a different progression because we might start with a barbell, we might start with a hex bar, we might start with something more simple like kettlebells out to the side, like a suitcase deadlift. You might do something like almost like a goblet squat position type thing where we were saying this before, relating that hanging the dumbbell down as opposed to holding it here, right? If we let it hang down, we can simulate a deadlift more, whereas if we put it on our chest, we can simulate a squat more because we can keep that body more upright. So that's another good progression to do. But if you find somebody that walks into the gym, they look like they can handle themselves, they have good posture, more likely than not, they can pick up a barbell.
How do you, for yourself, how do you determine which one is right for you? Barbell or trap bar or?
It depends on the goal. So if someone comes into me for generalized fitness, they're probably going to use like a barbell or something like that. They have something very, very specific that they're working on. Like as an example, if you use a hex bar, you're going to get a lot more quad activation because you can set that bar basically right in between. And it's the same thing that goes for like a sumo deadlift, is that you're able to use different levers differently and they have different effects. So as an example, somebody that might have like an outside glute issue where it's underdeveloped, sumo deadlifts might be really, really good for them. For someone that's already fine, they're well balanced and everything, sumo deadlifts actually might be contraindicated because it can really do some damage to your hips and lower back if you're not careful. However, it does allow you to lift the largest weight possible, depending on your levers, because there's this guy over here, like the short torso guy and the long torso guy. So yeah, those are the differences of when I would use certain things as well.
Okay. So after the fundamentals, what's the next step?
So the next step is doing the basic technique and being able to feel what it's like to hold posture under a load. So a lot of times you'll see people when they first try to pick up a barbell, they round their back severely. So it might look like, one of those where they pick it up and hunched over. So starting with learning how to do that properly and hold that tension is of the utmost importance, because once that tension breaks past like a perfect straight angle, then you're starting to get into the territory that it might be dangerous, depending on who you are and what your strengths are. If you have a super strong upper back, and you see this a lot with powerlifters, and again, they're competing to lift the heaviest weight humanly possible. So it's a little different. But you can see their upper back will start to bend a little bit. But they also have trained in that fashion for years and years and years and have those muscles available. Regular people, now we want to make sure that we have that super, super good posture because we're trying to get that isometric hold in the back, right? The legs are still doing the work. The butt's doing the work. The back is just holding an isometric hold. That's all it's doing. This is good for your core.
Would you consider deadlift a pull exercise or a push exercise? not according to the books.
It's a both and. Yeah, it's a both and. And I think all.
Where is the push? Let people know where the push is, because I think if they could understand the push, it will be so easy to do the deadlift.
Pretend like you're on a trap door, and that the barbell actually doesn't move, but a platform has to be pushed down. The way you do that is by pushing your legs into the ground and pulling your chest up. And that's the difference. The only thing that happens with that is your butt is basically squeezing, and it's not an active squeeze. It's more of a passive squeeze. But all that's happening is that's coming up, and then that butt is just locking it into place. And that's like where
I'm glad you said that, because, you know,
that's right. We went over this.
I'm glad you said that about the contraction of the glutes, you know, because I have some people, they might have a problem with with the contraction of the glutes.
Yeah, it's not your intimate partner that we're trying to use our glutes on. Okay, it's a passive movement. Yeah. We're trying to lift the bar up, and not shove our hips forward. Ooh, I like that. That's a cool effect.
Now, the starting position, being down, right? Two things. One, I've seen way too many people squatting.
Yeah.
Now, when you see them from afar and you just focus on them squatting, you kind of don't look at their proportion, how their body is set up. Right. Sometimes if they do have, what would you say, shorter lower body, it might seem like they were squatting when they don't have any other option.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, like you'll see this with basketball players a lot. Like when they squat or deadlift, it looks unnatural because a lot of times they have a really short torso and really long limbs.
Long legs, yeah.
So that's why I made this little thing right here. Like you can see, if you just look at this posture, you're like, that's a bad deadlift. But
yeah, because it seems like they're just going to hurt their lower back or get their erectors to just pop out of their back.
Right. But in reality, this is 90% of the people in the NBA. Short torso and long limbs, like that's their go-to. Yeah. So you see people that are developed like this, and you might not play a sport, but you still might have proportionally a shorter torso and longer limbs. It doesn't change the game at all. But what you'll see is it looks like they're in a compromised position, but really if we look at it, their back is straight, right? They're lifting it directly above their foot. They're keeping the bar path in the right motion. It's just, they're just built different. That's okay. Yeah. And then you see a longer torsoed athlete, and this you'll see more with like Olympic lifters a lot of time, especially the Asian Olympic lifters. They look like they're super in front of the barbell, but in reality, that's the only way they can grip the bar and stay over top of it in order to lift it off the ground.
Yeah. So now I learned deadlift, and there was a cue where it says some people over dip their hips. To lift. Is it over dip? I guess it's over dip. So when your hips are straight line, right? When you're about to lift, you go down to a little squat looking image, but sometimes people just go way too low. So over dipping their hips way too low, turning it into a squat-ish movement versus a hinge.
Right. And that's what you'll see with sumo deadlift. That's why most people that want to lift heavier weights sumo deadlift, because you get to use your lower back and your legs and your glutes and your hamstrings and all of it together. But again, it's like, I think I have it in the picture down here. Yeah, I think you guys can see that. Like it's putting so much pressure on that lower back and the outside of your knees and your hips, because that force is pushing out, that it's contraindicated. You really want to avoid that at all costs because of the tension that's going on the joints. Whereas like when you look at it, when most people start to do their deadlifts and they set their hips down super low, the first thing they do when they pick it up an inch is go like this and reset into a position. Because if your hips are down that low, your knee is going to be in front of the barbell. And you can't, you can't lift it straight up if your knee's in front of it. It's impossible. Yeah. Like only other thing you could do is go out in front of you and around, and then you're like this guy where the barbell is over the toes and it's pushing everything forward. And then that's going to cause an injury to that hamstring.
I may have a problem personally myself where coming down, I kind of slide the bar with my legs.
Yeah, you like squat it straight down like you're on an elevator.
Not necessarily squatting, but I feel like the knees, so the bar path coming down is, it goes a little forward, which doesn't bother me as far as hurting me or feeling a pain because I did something wrong. But I guess the question is how important it is to have the straight bar path.
I think so. Neurologically and like physically, you will tear more muscle fibers on the way down. So that eccentric portion just tears more fibers. That's just what it does, because you're slowing the load rather than that concentric phase, which is pulling it. Okay.
Yeah.
So as you're slowing that load, you're tearing more muscle fibers. The other thing you're doing is you're taking the reverse pattern and neurologically imprinting that in. So as you do something backwards the right way, it also has a translation to how you do that forwards as well. Okay. So when you start lowering that down, what I do typically, or what I'll tell coach or clients to do, is you hinge at the hip first, then you bend your legs and squat down.
Okay.
And then that way, what happens is you start feeling that pattern, and then you can start repeating it over and over again. And then it just gets imprinted. The only thing that changes, if the weight's too heavy or background's a little bit, you push hard and make it anyway, because no one wants to miss a deadlift, and then you move on with your day.
Now, one last question about the form.
Sure.
Sometimes I'll see people doing deadlifts. One, they come down, touch the ground, bounce right back up.
Yeah.
I always thought there was maybe a little slight second, not too long, but just a little slight second to engage your lats. I feel like people who just pick up the weight, drop the weight, pick up the weight, drop the weight, are more focused on just doing that. Pick up the weight, drop the weight, versus get your whole body involved, engaging off the lats, bracing off the core, taking your time with the reps.
Yep. There's significant research that shows you can take up to 7 seconds between a repetition before your body actually realizes that the repetition has ended or the set has ended. So you have a 7-second window. They usually try to keep it like 3 or 4, but you have a window where you can actually drop, like go down eccentrically, stop, reset your lats, get set again, and then pick it back up. And your body does not realize that there was any time in between rep 1 and 2. The stimulus is still the same.
Okay.
So you have that to your benefit. It also is extremely hard because, like you said, you have to get set each time. When you're bouncing it up and down, you're more flipping into that anaerobic state, right? Like without oxygen, rather than using all the glucose, which is what you really want, which is in that aerobic state. So it does become harder because those glucose energies start to get diminished. And then in order to start a mass up, it takes a lot of glucose, takes a lot of explosive power in order to do so.
So in your opinion, if you had to pick right or wrong, not I know I'm taking it there.
You're asking me to tell on myself at this point.
So no, I mean, because I mean, here's my thing. There's so many things, so many movements that are done 2,000 ways. That's why I stopped commenting on people exercising in form, because no matter what you say or what you know, they will find something to justify their movement.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's why I stopped commenting, because I feel like there's no more right and wrong. There's no more black and white. Everything is just gray. But when it comes to these big lifts, I think there has to be. There should be a standard operating
procedure. There should be a standard operating procedure. I'll give you an example. So if it were me and I was like the coach of someone, I would say, you're going to put your rep down. You're going to get set each time. You're going to do 10 reps.
Okay.
If you were my athlete and you were a power lifter,
training for something different,
right? Then I would say, you're having a bad day or you've had a bad week, and it's like, hey, we're going to do touch and go reps today because I know you're going to get more weight. It's going to build you up a little bit, and it's still going to get the desired effect. Like
use that anger of having a bad week, take it out on that.
Exactly. And are they going to get hurt? No, because they've done it 500,000 times. Even 10 bad deadlifts in a row, if you've done 100,000 deadlifts in your life, is not going to harm you, I promise. The weight on the bar will.
Okay.
Just want to make that clear.
Not the technique. Got it.
All right. Well, the technique does matter. Don't get me wrong. But the weight on the bar is what's going to hurt you with bad technique.
Yes. I got it.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. Common mistakes that you see people make.
Dragging it up their shins, which means that they're not staying over the bar enough. It means that they don't want to use their lower back because their lower back's tired. So instead what they do is what you were saying. They set their hips down, which pushes their knees forward, and then it kind of goes out and around and they end up scratching their shins. That's a big one. That's one of the first mistakes that people make. The second mistake that people make all the time is shooting their butt up in the air.
Yes,
because they think lift with my back. The deadlift is a back exercise. No, it's a posterior chain exercise. It goes from the back of your neck all the way down.
All the way down, yes.
So it's a posterior lift. All that means is that those muscles are primarily activated, and the anterior one, the ones in the front, are static, trying to hold that posture in place. Those are the two big ones. You either have your butt down too low or your butt up way too high, and that ends up.
How do you fix that?
So if their butt's up too high, I tell them to push their butt down and lift their chest up. Okay. And then you can also tell them to push their belly button forward. And what that'll do is if they're like this, like over top of the bar too much with their butt up in the air, you tell them to push their belly button down, they'll come through here and see how like immediately like my butt went down. That's a super common one to do. If they start with their hips too low, you tell them to pick their hips up higher and then kind of move the bar a little bit forward on their foot. And that usually will make the adjustment for them.
Do you think there could be a muscle that is weaker, which can stop you from keeping your butt down?
Oh, yeah. It's going to be your lower back.
Okay.
Yeah, then you just need to go do back extensions or like, you know, where you go forward on the GHDs and like arch your back up. Like that's a super easy one. But that's the reason most people start with those issues is that their lower back gets tired. Because we sit all day. Like we don't use our lower backs anymore. We don't pick up stuff. Like we just sit around and play video games. Like, of course your back hurts. You're in a rounded position like this all day looking at your phone. That's
editing videos, put it on YouTube.
I do. Wow. You don't have a standing desk yet?
No. I should. Wow. You know, you're like the fifth person who have told me to get that. But yeah, no wonder my lower back's been tight for like past 2 weeks. So I will. It's it's a work in progress.
This turned into a coaching session. I can't wait to see this on YouTube.
There you go. But I'm throwing up the squat video. So the kettlebell swings is already on YouTube, and squats going out tomorrow.
Rad. All right.
Moving on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what else we got going on with deadlifts?
So we had after common mistakes. What was the next one? I forgot. I texted you.
I'm gonna say grip because I have.
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about grip.
I hate switch grip.
Which is what? Please let people know.
So if this is the barbell, it would be me grabbing an opposite thing.
Please explain why you hate it.
Okay. I've been waiting for this moment. So when your top hand is on a bar, your shoulder naturally comes forward. And that's okay. The whole point of deadlifts, right, is to activate that posterior chain, which means you have to pull your shoulder back, take that shoulder blade and stick it to your rib cage. Okay.
Yep.
When you have your palm up, it pulls that shoulder back into place and also makes the bicep super, super susceptible to tearing because the first thing you want to do when you pick up a heavy object is bend your elbows, which you can do. And under a large enough stress, your bicep will not take it. The other thing,
it's funny that you said that.
No one ever switches their grip either. They always do the same grip every time. You're creating your own imbalance.
You know why? So for 10 months, or 10 months ago, or maybe a year ago, I made a post about this, the switch grip, and pointed out exactly why it could put your bicep in a very, very vulnerable place, where some people have actually torn their biceps because of that, because they were lifting heavy. And then around the same time, me and my friend, we were arguing about sumo and conventional. Now, I've never said sumo is cheating, just to set the record straight. I've always said that everybody was doing sumo because everybody was doing sumo. They were not understanding why behind it. They were just doing it because their coach was doing it.
Yeah. Again,
coach's friend was doing it.
Yeah, you can pull some more weight like that, especially with really no technique or if you have super long limbs, like golden, easy.
And guess what grip they were using?
A switch grip.
Yep. Everybody, they still do it, and I just don't understand it.
If you're just a normal human being and you really want to pick up that much weight, just go get straps. Like, just wear lifting straps. Like weightlifting around the bar.
You wouldn't consider that cheating?
I mean, if we're in a competition, yeah, it's cheating. But if we're just working out, like if me and you, like if I'm training you and you're not competing, you're not going to a competition.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tell you to use. First, I'm gonna tell you to use a hook grip because I'm sure you don't do that when you pick up a barbell. It's okay.
I like my thumbs to play video games.
Hey, I like them too, and they work just fine. I've been hook gripping my whole life. Now, the first thing I would do is tell you to do a hook grip because it's a different skill to learn and it helps grab onto the barbell and it does different things for your hand strength. But the other thing I would do is like if you get to a point where you want to lift heavier, just throw straps on. I mean, like there's really no harm in holding the bar. You're not gaining anything else because you're still going to be squeezing your forearms. You're still going to be trying to hold the bar as hard as you can. But now you can do a little bit more mass and not have to worry about the danger of the bar miraculously slipping out of your hand, which is
it's funny that you're saying that because I was doing rack pulls, trying to get my numbers up on deadlifts. So I used my straps because I was tired of doing 315. So I threw another 45s on each side. So I threw another 90 pounds on there and used the straps and knocked out like 3 reps. So that I think straps also take the fear out of your mind that you can't.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with lifting more weight because especially if you're training for that, right? You want to get a bigger deadlift. You have to lift more weight. If you cannot hold on to the barbell anymore, then it's impossible to lift more weight. What's appropriate for you to lift? 315 is not appropriate for you to be lifting for sets of 3. It should be 90 pounds more. It should be in the 400s. That's what you're trying to get better and better and lift bigger and bigger weights. You got to lift it.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Which grip is better?
Double overhand grip. Unless you're doing some kind of, some people like to do a supinated grip, like palms up, which is a really good way to start learning how to keep your scapula back. Okay. It's very, very difficult. It's really fun, but people all of a sudden will come up and be like, man, my upper back is toasted. I'm like, yeah. You got to really pin those.
You had it contracted the whole time, yeah.
Right. So there's different grips that you can use for different situations. But I'm a big like double overhand hook grip. Like, I mean, I'll tape my thumbs and everything, or I'll just grab some straps. I really don't think that there's anything wrong with that.
Okay.
Never switch grip, ever.
Say it one more time.
Never, ever, ever switch. Quote me on this till the day I die. Unless you are a power lifter and it is in competition, you do not need switch gripping.
There you go. That's what I really want to drive home. I feel like people see somebody do it and they don't question the why. They just do it too.
Yeah. Because everyone's lazy. They don't want to switch their hands around. That's all it would take.
I think they don't want to do the research.
This guy. There he goes.
They just don't want to do the research. They're too lazy. They're like, oh, Aaron's doing it, so I'm just going to fight. He knows what he's doing. I'll do it too because he must be right.
Or maybe contact that person and pay them for their services so that then they can tell you to stop switch gripping, that it's not right for you right now.
There you go. Not everything is right for everybody.
That's it, man. You got it.
You're right
for me, though.
There you go. You know what's funny? Just recently I was thinking, I have never done switch grip on, I only do conventional because I've never learned Sumo. But now I think it's coming to a point where conventional is causing me more soreness on my erectors than the whole body. Like I feel like there's like 2 highways on my back on fire going up. Yes.
Yep.
I can literally tell you where they are, like, the muscles, because I can feel them exactly, those 2 things.
Yep.
So I think I'm going to switch to Sumo and try to learn how to do that properly.
Do some snatch grip deadlifts too before you do that.
Snatch grips, what is that? What is
wide grip deadlift.
Okay.
Like out past the second rings.
Oh, okay. That's funny. What do you think about hybrid deadlift? It might not be called that. It might be something else. So imagine somewhere in between conventional and Sumo. So not fully Sumo.
Or on the inside.
Not fully Sumo, not fully conventional.
But hands are on the inside of the knees or the outside of the knees?
I want to say they should be outside. It's just wider stance.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say... I'll probably have to experiment it and do it myself.
They'll turn their toes out a lot more. so that their knees get out of the way, and they'll widen their feet up so they won't go outside of their hips. They might just like maybe just outside their hips, but they won't go super wide. And then they'll have it literally just on the inside of the knee when they're down in that position. But their toes are pointed out so that they need to keep their chest up more, and you're going to feel it more in your mid to upper back and then in your glutes and quads.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we got a few people over here, so let's see if anybody has any questions about deadlift. I think we almost covered most of it, or all of it.
We could probably write a book about it, but what's your best deadlift?
Huh?
I want to know your best deadlift. What's your best deadlift? That's my question.
Between what, sumo and conventional?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. So again, like you said, if you're a power lifter trying to lift the heaviest weight, you do your sumos. Right. Now, I've seen people lift the heaviest conventional as well. Somebody just recently, it popped up on my reels, was doing 190 pounds conventional. 890 pounds. I don't know if I said 8. 890, okay, conventional. So for people to say that you cannot lift heavy with conventional, that's just, not true. But yeah, I've been stuck within 300 for such a long time, but that's because I've been on and off.
Yeah. Consistency always wins.
Yeah, well, my directors disagree with that one.
We're all human. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions?
All right, let's see who's here. If you guys have any questions, please comment below. If not, thank you for joining us. Aaron, thank you once again.
I appreciate it.
This was fun. I liked it. This makes me want to go knock out some reps on deads.
I need like 3 more days, and then I'm right there with you.
That's sore, huh?
Yeah, I'm hurting. Like, steps are not fun right now.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. Of course, this will be also on YouTube as well. Just allow us a couple days to edit. We'll put it out there. But go check out the YouTube channel. The kettlebells are already on there. Squats will be on there tomorrow. We'll see you next Sunday.
Thanks, guys. Like and subscribe and all that stuff.
All that stuff. All right, Aaron. Take care.
Later, buddy.
Bye.